Good afternoon, climate studies. Today we are in Baku, Azerbaijan, the host for the 29th COP UNFCCC, which was attended by more than 70,000 delegations from nearly 200 countries. And now we have special guests here. They are representing youth delegates. We have first one, Benjamin, a youth advisor on climate change to the United Nations Secretary General and co-chair to the Global Student Energy Summit. Thank you, Ben, for coming here. How is Baku?
It's fantastic here.
Okay, you like Baku?
Yes.
And we also have Zagi Yakanavirian,
Yeah.
the founder of the Society of Renewable Energy.
Yes.
Hello, Zagi. Nice
Hi,
to have you
Eva.
here.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Okay, the first one, let me begin with Benjamin. Ben, I heard a lot of amazing stories about you. You start youth advocacy since 4 years ago until now, and you become one of youth advisor for the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres. Could you share your story to us?
Yes, thanks so much for having me. I come from Poland. It's a country that relies in 80% for our electricity generation on coal. It's actually similar to Indonesia in the sense that our country also really relies on this fossil fuel. And when I was growing up, my parents were definitely not in environmental movement, but they did teach me to care about turning off electricity and turning off the water tap when we didn't need it. I was sensitized to make sure that in my everyday behavior, I act in accordance with what good environmental stewardship looks like. So when I started growing up and learning more about the climate change, about the impacts that our emissions are making on the atmosphere, it was easy for me to understand how my behavior should change and how all other people around me should be changing their behavior as well. However, once I started learning more, I also understood that just switching to paper straws
Yes,
is not going to be enough. We
Right.
need a bigger systemic change
you're right.
because 70% of our emissions are coming from the energy sector. And that's why we need to transition from oil, gas, and coal to renewable electricity. And this is an issue to which I dedicated the last 4 years of my life.
Wow, wow, that's very encouraging story. Okay, could you share with us about what innovative methods can be applied to make energy transition knowledge and training more accessible and relevant to youth generation, especially in global south like Indonesia?
For sure. I would like to tell you about an initiative that I organized last year. You mentioned it earlier, Student Energy Summit. It's a conference that takes place every 2 years in a different city around the world. In 2023, our university won the bid to bring it to Abu Dhabi, where I studied, in the United Arab Emirates, next to COP28, where I believe you were there as well. So Student Energy Summit was a conference that brought together more than 600 young people from 130 countries to come together, explore different topics related to energy transition, meet ministers, private sector leaders, and people from important intergovernmental organizations to learn about financing energy transition and different technologies. I think conferences like this one, and I know Society of Renewable Energy is organizing those in Indonesia, can be a powerful tool not only to teach young people, but also show them who are other young professionals around them who want to work in the sector and give them the confidence that it's really possible.
Okay, that's amazing story. So before I move to Zagi, what initiative could effectively bridge the gap between the skill training and job placement for youth in the growing renewable energy sector?
One area that is critical if we want to help young people more easily enter the energy transition sector is to create better internship and apprenticeship programs. Companies often expect young people to come out of university and have 5 years of work experience. That does not happen in the real world.
That's not happen.
So one, it's about the big companies creating entry-level jobs, but it's also about initiatives like what I learned in the event today, the Sabumi is doing, helping young people deploy renewable energy solutions in their communities. So we need to see more of that.
Okay, that's great story. That's great story. So now I turn to Zagi and I let her come back on you. So, Zagi, You had so many concrete projects,
Yeah.
especially related to translating idea into
Yeah.
action.
Yeah.
One of your stories is about just energy transition,
Yeah.
and you have been invited to the
Yeah.
UN General Assembly Sustainability Week.
Yeah.
What is your motivation since beginning until now that always make you confident about the future of youth?
So yeah, thank you so much for the question, and thank you so much, Ben, for allocating your very important time to be in this podcast with me in the Indonesian pavilion with a great setup, diverse culture, and yeah, related to the question. So 5 years ago, since I learned about the mechanical engineering, I learned about the futures. I prefer to learn about renewable energy than the fossil energy itself. So during my uni, I researched a lot of alternative solution in terms of the renewable energy sectors. I had maybe five publication. You can Google it, Google Scholar like Jagi Berians.
You are
So I
so
used to be a researcher at that time, but
okay.
turned into an activist and entrepreneur like right
A
now.
very passionate students, right?
Yeah, and so the motivation comes from the natural resources that we have in Indonesia, around 2,500 gigawatts in terms of the solar potential, hydro and wind. So we need a lot of young people to think about the technology, to think about the solution itself. So I cannot go by myself. I have to, invite the community itself. So I start using my social media. I influence,
Okay.
yeah, other people.
Influencer.
So, no, not influencer, but yeah,
Okay.
influence other people. So at that time, I only have 1,000 followers,
Okay.
but right now 15,000 followers.
Okay, much more.
So the key is we have to give some knowledge to the other surrounding. So myself turn to creating some platform, unique platform like the Society of Renewable Energy. So I think the key is providing some concrete project, but we know the energy sector is really difficult, like market structures, so heavy policy or something else. But I see very specific sectors like rural electrification. We only create a very small, but we can give some real experience to the young people. So, in order to advocate for the renewable energy itself, the young people have to learn and have to, experience like creating or building the solar PV, building the micro hydro. So, I have to ask to the government, ask to the private sectors, the CSR program, and we give them some opportunity like internship, apprentice. So within the third year, student in the university can apply voluntary to install the solar PV in every location that we have.
Oh, that's
So
great.
my role is, to be a bridge between the multidiscipline institution among the energy sectors to create some opportunity for the young people because my calculation and also uh, SRE calculation itself, we estimate we need 8 into to 15 million green jobs to achieve our bonus demography by 2045. That's why I really encourage the young generation to learn and to implement like a voluntary, like very small step, talking with the rural community, talking with the other to solve the social issue and implement some economic opportunity for the rural area.
That was so amazing. You were so visionary back then. So that's a very good ex you did. So talking about the Society of Renewable Energy, which you founded, where is the idea come from to establish such decentralized energy community?
Yeah. So the idea comes from the Indonesian characteristic. Within 17,000 island, we cannot reach the island one by one from Jakarta. So the solution is we have to decentralize the community itself. If we want to install, for instance, in the western part of Indonesia or eastern part of Indonesia, we have to, establish the local community because of the cost of the flight, the cost of the logistic to that location. So we create some capacity building in those area. So the SRE aims to develop very localized community underneath the university in order to, guided by the lecture and teachers in the local. So if there is some project from the Jakarta, we can, easily connect with the local community itself. So we only bring one young professional from Jakarta and fly to the eastern part or western part of Indonesia. It can reduce the OPEC itself, because the key is we have to create some concrete project within a very optimized capex and OPEX itself. So I think the SRE would be, bridge the opportunity and also the young generation eagerness to act more in the energy transition.
Okay. So do you have so much support from people around you?
I have so many support, like
Support.
from band,
From
from
teachers?
the government, from the private sectors, a lot of network, especially in Indonesia, support each other. So yeah, I already mentioned in every event, like the government of Indonesia through the Ministry of Environment and Forestry back then. So they establish small grants. The small grants create opportunity for the young people to, to propose some concrete projects. So I remember Ibu Siti Nurbaya always, give some statement. They have to, can access very inclusive financing from the government. So the government can ask to the donors from international and disperse to the local community, because they have right to, to get the money itself.
That's great story. Okay. So what are some of the current barriers preventing youth-led renewable energy project from scaling, and how can different institutions help to address them?
So the barriers comes from the resources itself, and then the young generation must commit to, to establish some movement in the long term, because several young generation thinks always, taking voluntary basis into their resume
Yeah.
to take
Yeah,
some,
yeah, that's right.
master degree sponsorship, but after that they don't want to be activists, and then they want to, continue the program itself. But I give some, leading by example to the young generation in Indonesia. I commit until now. I always, influence other people to give some very tangible result. So I think the private sectors, the government must, encourage young generation to commit once they taking into action.
Okay, so the key point is to commit,
Yeah.
okay? To commit, to keep going,
Yeah.
okay? So now my question for both of you, the first one is, I heard today both of you had special meeting with the UN Secretary General. What are the key messages that you delivered to the Secretary General? Are the key message?
Yes, so we had a meeting today with Secretary General. He holds those meetings at every COP, and we are very, as the youth advisory group, we want to make sure that he hears from young people from around the world. We put special emphasis on indigenous people, people from small island states and from other developing countries, as well as young people affected by conflict. And some of the messages that young people convey to the Secretary General include: one, the importance of continued involvement of young people, but also indigenous people. There are indigenous people in Indonesia as well, and they have particular development opportunities and challenges, and it's critical that they get access to development, to clean energy, and to whatever else is necessary for them. Young people are also very clear that this COP that we are here in Baku needs to deliver on climate finance. Developed countries needs to provide the necessary support for developing countries to both achieve their mitigation, but also adaptation and loss and damage goals.
But
So from my side, I really love the statement from the Secretary General. The young generation have to fight for the climate change, have to, giving very specific solution to these sectors, and we don't want to worry anymore because the Secretary General is in our side. So the youth have play a key role. So I don't know, maybe yeah, a really good opportunity for me especially to see the Secretary General. And by the way, Benji is moderate the session. Is really cool.
Okay. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So we don't have to worry because
Yeah.
we have the full support,
Yeah,
right? Okay,
from the Secretary General.
so and the next question, what are your lessons learned from young generation to have a head start?
In order to make a head start for young people, I think it is important to learn from other people's mistakes.
Okay.
Because you don't, people have most of the things you can think of, someone has already started, or at least tried and failed.
Okay.
Find those people.
Okay.
Ask them questions, what worked and what didn't. I think I must admit that I'm a bit of an ambitious but stubborn person, and a lot of things I just take on head on, and I sometimes don't really consult anyone for advice. Recently, I've been trying to be more conscious about it, and it really helps. It really helps to hear from people who have been through this journey already and can give you some advice.
Okay. Learn from other people's mistakes. Okay. And
Yes.
how about you, Zaggy?
So from my side, let's invest our holiday time
Okay.
for our futures.
Okay.
I believe like Benji, maybe Benji, he don't have any holiday.
Okay.
So
That
I
is
think
true.
we have to invest our time more than the average people in the in the energy sector itself, because the energy sectors, if you wanna become some leaders, you will face a lot of challenges. So the thing is, we have to learn all the time, no matter like Saturday or Sunday,
Okay.
even though you are working in the cafe or something else. So we need to invest the holiday time for our futures.
Okay.
Maybe that's the key for Head Start.
That was so great.
Can I add to this?
Oh, yes, yes,
I
sure.
attest this is true for Zaggy. If there is an opportunity, he will take the call no matter what the time. 1
Okay.
a.m., 3 a.m. I
Yeah.
text him, he's always online. But it's true because we are not born equal.
Yeah.
Some people aren't born rich.
Yes.
Some people are born into a family of academics. They have easy access to universities. There's one thing, we're all equal. We all have 24 hours in our day.
Yeah, you're right.
And what you can do is you can outwork the other person.
Yeah.
Work harder, work smarter, and you'll get there.
Okay, being more productive on our free time, right?
Yeah.
24/7 available, like Zaggy.
That's too much.
That-
He
that-
should go to sleep.
No.
that was so amazing. Okay, again, thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
sharing your experience in adapting the climate change issue, especially from the local level up to the global level. I'm so happy and honored to have you here with us today. It was such an inspiring talk we have today. The good things coming from the young generations. I do believe that multi-generation, in particular the youth, will be inspired from the climate X you brought with well. So much well, so good. I'm so much inspired by two of you. So looking forward for the future contribution from you in fighting the climate change in the future. And I thank you so much for coming
Thank you.
here. It was such a great time. I hope you enjoy your
Yeah.
time with me.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Climate Buddy.
Yeah.
Thank you and goodbye.